I'm not gonna lie, there's gonna be a wild one. A new update has dropped with more lore on the Stellaron Hunters being revealed, and you know that there is so much that can be gleaned with just 3 sentences when you are someone like me who spends way too much time reading database entries and various readables. And I do it all for you because we in the Honkai Star Rail community do not read, but that's okay because I do it for ya. But of course I know that my Genius Society members and my longtime viewers are the cream of the crop. And I got something good for you guys today. Because none other than the Dice Head Hat Man himself has dropped more info on Elio's troop, as he calls it, and I think he just shattered everything that we know about the Finality and revealed something absolutely massive. Something so incredibly groundbreaking that I think this reveals what the final boss of Honkai Star Rail truly is. Because I have had my suspicions in the past, and now it has only gotten worse. So fair warning, this is going to get complicated, but I will be doing my best to make everything as understandable as possible. So without further ado, this is the finale of Honkai Star Rail revealed. And I think it is time for us to get serious. Okay. So this all begun with how Elio and Terminus work, because this has all been a journey, and in order to understand how far this all goes, we gotta start from the very beginning. You see, the universe of Honkai Star Rail has already been destroyed many times. Countless times even. And Foley and possibly other Aeons have trapped the universe as we know it in a loop, with the downside being that the world remains in this eternal samsara loop and dies in the same exact way over and over and over again. But this is where we, the Trailblazer, come in, because we are immune to this loop and our actions are, for one reason or another, unchained by this predetermined destiny of destruction. Much like Caslana being the deliverer was the only inconsistent factor in the cycles, and whatever he changed would actually change in the cycles and everything else would remain the same. Only he had an influence over the ending of how Amphorius died, even though it died every time. Apart from Lygus, of course, but that's besides the point, we'll get to that later. Point is, only what Caslana influenced would change and everything else would remain the same. This is what I believe it means to be fateless, or Ishvara as Yao Guang calls us.
However, this person really surprised me. I can't see anything from her at all. Are you really free to try any choice? To do anything you want? Does an Ishvara like you actually exist in this world? Only Ishvara. Only observers with sufficient strength and personal freedom have what it takes to make choices that trace the path to our future.
Now, the reason why we are able to replace Finan as the deliverer is because we are fateless. But this does not mean that we are the only person that can influence the cycles, because Lygus could as well. A being that could sit outside of time and manipulate events from behind the curtain. The Fioros role, as I'm calling it. A role I think is actually played in the cosmos by Elio. Because just like Lygus kept track of Castellana's efforts to save everyone and destroy Iron Tomb, Elio has kept a long, very long log of every single ending we have reached. And this is all because of Terminus, the Aeon that travels backwards through time, giving prophecies of the future. Now, we are all well aware that Elio's ability to see possibilities extends incredibly far into the future, knowing that the best and worst possible endings are for us to face Nanook.
There is only one thing I can tell you about the future. In the best and the worst cases, you will eventually have to face Nanook, the destruction.
Something only Terminus would know. And if time has repeated multiple or millions of times, Terminus would have a long log of each and every single time we failed, and every time Elio made a script and failed, resulting in being able to predict endings such as if we never went to Amphorius at all, as we saw in Exotale Scene 8, or the other script that Dahlia showed us where we died. So, seeing the results of Elio's abilities, we can deduce how the script works and how Elio writes it. If he sees all of these endings, he cherry picks what events he needs to transpire and sends the Stellaron Hunters to steer us in the right direction. Which is also why the Stellaron Hunters are hiding information from us and there are things they can't tell us, because as Kath Kafka says, knowing the right thing at the wrong time can reset a lot of our progress, or just doom us all in general.
Like I said, Elio withheld key pieces of information from me. The future holds endless possibilities. Knowing the right thing at the wrong time could spoil all our hard work.
Because though we are the wild card in the universe, unlike Castellana, we do not have the memories of all of our failures. But as we have seen on multiple occasions, we have failed before and died before. More evidence that supports how Elio gets his info. What Elio is seeing is the universe's cycles, and has thus made a route for us to get to the ending he foresees, and he wants us to get to. Did you get all that? Because that was all just the prelude. The real theory comes in when you get to what Asat Pramod says about Elio's troop. He says that the overarching goal of the Stellaron Hunters is to kill the Finality, or kill Terminus.
They are not fighting against a specific apocalypse, but trying to destroy the Finality itself.
And this changes so much, because the entire time I was stumped as to how the Stellaron Hunters are Finality followers if they very much seem to be working to oppose Finality, with an Emanator of Finality as their leader. But the simple fact and confirmation that they are trying to kill Terminus makes perfect sense. Let me explain. You see, there is no reason for an Aeon to keep an Emanator that works against them, and there is no reason for them to choose such an individual as an Emanator, apart from destruction or nihility, because IX couldn't care less, and Anuk isn't against self-destruction. But what is so different about the case of Terminus is that choosing someone like Elio would be helping humans avoid Finality. And as we know, Aeons cannot deviate from their path or else they die. They fall.
As far as humanity knows, there are only 3 ways an Aeon can fall.
A broader path engulfs a narrower one. Divine warfare between eons, and...
Forcing an Aeon to turn away from their own path.
Unless this is what Terminus wants. Hear me out. You see, what we know from patch 3.8 is that Dahlia told us Terminus, as the universe is destroyed, splits themselves into the black cats we see the Stellaron Hunters with and moves backwards through time.
This cat is not Elio, but a strand of Terminus's divine corpus. Terminus turned into a pack of black cats, distributing every ounce of their divine power between those creatures.
The Aeon changes form. The Aeon is trying to descend, but they keep reascending again. Because Asad Pramod tells us in a critical success answer, the fall of an Aeon is simply a change in form in which they currently exist.
The fall of an eon is simply a change to the form in which they currently exist. No one knows if this is something they planned.
Now, this is said in regards to Akivili, but Terminus is the Aeon that we know for a fact has changed forms, heavily suggesting that they do in fact plan their own fall and do so every single cycle. And if they move backwards through time, who's to say that the path of Finality itself isn't in reverse? Meaning that the Aeon wishes to narrow their path and cease to be, the exact opposite of every single other Aeon, leading to Terminus blessing people to help them fall. Terminus doesn't want to exist. Terminus doesn't want to become Finality. And perhaps when they say this,
Now I am become Finality, lifting the wheel of time, the destroyer of worlds.
they say this with lament at their failure once again, and they proceed to descend themselves by splitting into cats, hoping that this time is the last time they will have to do this. Because if you think about it, Each and every single action Terminus takes leads towards their fall. It works against the Finality. If they wanted Finality to come about, they wouldn't tell people about the future. They wouldn't descend at all, and Elio sure wouldn't be their emanator. So Elio is trying to kill Terminus, and Terminus is trying to help him. All because Finality is a path that flows in reverse and is trying to cease to be instead of expanding. But we can go further, because Asapromod says himself that the grand scheme of the Stellaron Hunters goes beyond the destruction. They are not fighting a specific apocalypse, they are fighting the Finality itself.
They are not fighting against a specific apocalypse, but trying to destroy the Finality itself.
Meaning that the very concept of the end of the universe is their enemy. The final boss of Honkai Star Rail is not Nanook. The end of the game is us fighting the concept of the finale, which is insane.
To be more exact, they seek to destroy a finale in which every possibility has been frozen. What Elio has glimpsed may be an end that goes beyond the destruction itself. A point where all things settle into complete stillness and nihility.
Because this goes beyond aeons. This goes beyond the paths. This is something bigger. And this is something that I theorized about a long time ago, because I made a grand connection of linking Fu Li and Terminus to Pure Land Buddhism and specific Bodhisattvas, and they fit perfectly. Bodhisattvas are quite literally beings that reach enlightenment and delay their own ascension into Buddhas to help other people. Avalokiteshvara, or Guan Yin, is Terminus, the Bodhisattva that, according to my sources, is the most known for being in the Thousand Arms state. And just in case you want more, legend has it that Guan Yin's head split from the grief of seeing just how many wicked people needed to be saved, and a Buddha, who I'll talk about later, put him or her back together again. See the similarities? Splitting and then being restored, thousand arms and all that. Side note, apparently Guan Yin became a full-fledged Buddha and then decided to turn back into a Bodhisattva out of compassion. They literally descended. Guan Yin literally ascended and then descended just like Terminus. The coincidences and links to Terminus never stop.
When coincidences pile up, they cease to be coincidences, Mr. Ashvale.
Well, Terminus isn't the only one, because Guan Yin has a colleague by the name of Mahastama Prapta, or Dashiji, another Bodhisattva who works under the same Buddha as Guan Yin that has a Pure Land that works nearly in the same way that Fu Li uses theirs. Let me explain. The entire purpose of Pure Land Buddhism is to help people escape the samsara of death and rebirth. So instead of suffering through the arduous journey of reaching enlightenment, you can simply have faith, make a vow, and practice Nianfu, which translates to recollection of the Buddha. So yeah, very much like Fu Li, Dashiji has a Pure Land of recollection. And by the way, Dashiji is also depicted holding lotus flowers, the very flower that is featured behind Fu Li. Yes, Hoyo is subtle as a brick as long as you know where to look. But now that those unmistakable similarities are addressed, who was this unnamed Buddha that Guan Yin and Dashiji work under? Well, that would be Amitabha, the most known Buddha that I don't have a Star Rail connection for, which wraps all the way around to what was implied earlier. There is something beyond the aeons. There is something above everything we currently have seen, and Hoyo is setting the groundwork for it now. These are just crumbs, but even if you look at what the aeons are based off of, you still get to the same conclusion. Elio gets information from Terminus, writes a script based off of all the bad endings in an effort to defeat a threat that we have yet to see that is above the aeons. Nanook isn't the final boss, and Terminus might not be the final boss either. It might not even be the Void itself or even the Leviathans. The true end is something we have yet to see, and something so strong that even in the millions or even billions of tries, Elio has yet to defeat it. But for right now, this is where I will have to leave off, because this is the finale of Honkai Star Rail revealed. This has got to be one of my biggest theories yet. It started off as a suspicion, but now as it keeps getting supported by Hoyo enabling my insanity, I could not be happier about it. This whole time we've been led to believe that Aeons are the peak of existence, but what if they aren't? What if there is something bigger out there? If Aeons are Bodhisattvas, what are the Buddhas? How do they work? Can Aeons just ascend just like Bodhisattvas can anytime they feel like it? Oh, we have so much to learn, and I think we are just scratching the surface of what Hoyo has in store for us in the future. Aside from Mod's little Q&A game really just opened up a ton of new discussions, and there are still more. Honestly, I don't want to go on vacation in Astropolis because that just means Hoyo is going to hit us even harder when we get back. Sure, there is probably something out there in the universe that is going to oppose us, but we all know that the IPC is the final boss of Honkai Star Rail. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out.